Hi, everyone. So thank you for joining us. Very excited to be here today to talk with Jennifer and Nayan about the customer benefits of AMI and how can utilities leverage their data to build, personalized and engaging customer journeys. So I'm going to first turn to Nayan. Nayan, could you explain us the unique structure of PSEG Long Island and LIPA and how you work together?
It's a unique structure that I must say between PSEG Long Island and LIPA, who is a Long Island Power Authority. They are a municipal nonprofit New York State utility serving almost 1.1 million customers for the entire Long Island, for Nassau, Suffolk, and some part of the Rockaway and Queens. So structure that we have is we as a PSEG Long Island is a subsidiary of the PSEG group of companies, and we are a service provider for we are a service provider for the Long Island Power Authority. LIPA owns the infrastructure, they owns the T&D, they owns all the assets, and they have an overseeing role for the utility, and we run the operation, day-to-day operation. When we got this contract, long-term contract from LIPA in 2014 from this previous service provider, one of the key thing was how to increase the customer satisfaction. That was one of the key metrics. So currently we are operating with LIPA under the operating service agreement, and we have a number of metrics and KPIs that we are responsible every month, every weekly, to provide them the better customer experience, high reliability, and all other metrics along with the safety, reliability. These are some of the structure. And on top of that, we have our regulator also, which is the Department of Public Services. So as I said, it's a unique structure where we being a private utility company working with the municipal utility, nonprofit organization, a long history in a Long Island with the very severe weather conditions and providing the customer experience to the next level.
Great. Thanks, Nayan. So then looking at specifically the role of AMI in improving customer engagement, how could you walk us through exactly how the customer experience for the PSEG Long Island customer population, how it has evolved with the deployment of AMI? So you brought on BGD, but what other changes were brought on for your customers?
Yep. So I must say that the AMI journey has been really, really good for us for PSEG Long Island. We started very early, and just like anything else, we always believe in start small, just making sure that the things are fully vetted before we deploy to the mass customer base, right? So as of September, I'm very happy to say that we are almost 95% into our journey. So 95% of our customer base are saturated with the AMI, which is a very exciting thing for customer as well as for the utility. From get-go, we started deploying the AMI-enabled capabilities, even though our saturation was much lower, right? We wanted to make sure that how we can use the AMI for the customer benefits and how can we leverage AMI for improving customer experience, and ultimately, as our number one goal is how to satisfy customer experience by leveraging this technology. So we started our journey, I would say, in 2018-19, and we started doing a small pilot and then expanding our capabilities to the most of the customers as soon as they are getting the AMI, right? So we initially started with the remote connect disconnect services, right, where the service orders can be executed on the same day and providing the customer the experience which they never had without AMI. Another main driver for the AMI was AMI read rate, right? So when customer receives estimated bill, of course they are not happy, right? When somebody gets the estimated bill. So how to drive down the estimated bill to the minimum, right? Currently, we are like almost less than 10% estimated bill with the 95% penetration, which is really good. I think that is like, the customers are getting the actual bill. This is no more that you are interacting with your customers once a month or twice a month by sending them a bill. And that's why another exciting pilot that we worked on was the load disaggregation, how to provide the bill breakdown, how customers are going to get the information regarding how they spend energy and where they spend energy. Just like think about your credit card bill. If I send you the credit card bill at the end of the month and saying that, okay, here, you have to pay $3,000 without providing any breakdown of where you spend your $3,000, right? So we strongly believe in how we can really provide more insight to the customers by leveraging AMI and learning from the AMI to provide the information where customer understand their bill, customer understand how they are using energy, and then customer will have some tools how to control and how to manage their energy use, and at the end of the day, how to save their money, right? We have also started using AMI for the power restoration process, right? So when customer loses power, we can ping the meters and understand and validate the outages. And during any weather event, right, it's very crucial how we can do the faster restoration by leveraging AMI, understanding that whether they are out or they are not out. And doing that way, we can avoid the unnecessary truck rolls, and we can really focus on where we really need to focus and do the faster restoration. That's a big deal for the customers, right?
And I love your credit card analogy. I think it speaks speaks tremendously, and I think the 95% that you quoted is very impressive. As the fact that you embarked on that journey at the same time as your AMI rollout. So Jennifer, can I ask you, how does that match what you see in the rest of the industry? I mean, PSEG Long Island seems to be very innovative and forward looking. What do you see in comparison to their use case?
PSEG Long Island is right on point with focusing on utilizing all this information to make better decisions for their customers, as well as enable their customers to make better decisions for themselves. So there are so many benefits to AMI internally and operationally for the utility, such as no longer having estimated meter reads, having saved truck rolls, storm restoration. But all of this information really can be presented to the customer in a way that they can build trust with the utility, right? And not only that, they can make the decisions for themselves in regards to how they're using their utility, as well as some of the other, features of DER, vehicle electrification, and be more engaged and hands-on. It's no longer a once-a-month interaction with your bill and paying your bill. It's no longer calling the utility when you have an issue. It's about having it be a two-way communication.
The goal, as you mentioned before, in the relationship with IPA was really focused on customer satisfaction. So how do you look at that metric? Is that really your core?
That is being one of the, I would say, core focus as a customer services organization. For last 7 years, we've been doing very well in that area by learning from the customers and trying to come up with the new innovation and technology to solve the business issues.
Yeah, I really appreciate how customer centric you are. And Jennifer, do you see that as well in other, like maybe you have other like projects or other utilities where you've seen a similar trend or similar metrics that are captured?
Absolutely. So metrics are key for engaging customers, as well as ensuring utilities are meeting those customer satisfaction goals. Because we've seen with AMI and AMI deployment, it's really easy to get focused on, the physical deployment of meters and lose track of all of the other value driven benefits of AMI that doesn't necessarily show up in your P&L or in your financials. Those are really the metrics that help drive customer engagement that aren't easily measured by a number on an Excel sheet. So having metrics centered around customer engagement and focusing on getting utilities to engage customers in these programs such as load disaggregation, EV programming, DER, really helps to ensure that the utility stays focused on getting the full benefits of AMI.
Nayan, I was wondering if you had specific, maybe a specific customer story that you'd like to share about that showcase the benefits from that AMI engagement. Any customer or any testimonial that you've got from the field that you've heard back that maybe made you smile or made you feel good about the program that you implemented for them?
As I mentioned earlier, right, since 2018, we started doing many different use cases, and we had the methodology which was approved by our regulators or for the benefit cost analysis, right? So many more use cases that what we have deployed. One of the use case that I wanted to share, right, which you cannot say the hard benefits, but at the same time, as I said, to my earlier point, how to really drive the higher customer engagement and ultimately driving the customer experience as well as the satisfaction is the small projects the small pilot that we have done it with the load disaggregation concept with Bijli's next gen insight product, right? Where we initially started with the small proof of concept. And then when we surveyed our customers, we got a very positive response. Almost over 85 to 90% of customers really like this information that we were sharing every monthly. And also not only sharing that what happened, but also like how we can predict based on their 15 days of use that, okay, what would be your estimated bill at the end of the month? And again, using the AMI, using the Bijli's AI-driven analytics, using the customer behavior, and giving them an opportunity to really manage their energy use and take some action saying that, okay, I have used more than 50, 70, 80% of my usage. Now I have a chance for another 15 days. How can really I control and stay within my budget, right? So that project, we received, I would say, as far as the customer engagement is concerned, their click rates and the open rate is like, we are very pleased. I would say the open rate was more than 30%. Which is, I think, more than the industry's open rate or the different programs that we have deployed in past. And the click-through rate, how customers are looking at their energy very seriously and looking at the portal, which really satisfy us, right? And which we believe that those customers are truly engaged and trying to understand their energy. And so many times, as I gave you one of the example about the credit card, but one of the customer feedback was, this is the first time I see that utilities are matching up with Amazon and Netflix.
Jennifer, can you tell us more on your side? How does West Monroe support utilities in those programs and support them in looking forward, right? Or what enhancement they can bring on?
Sure. So West Monroe has been helping utilities from AMI deployment all the way through implementation of some of the programs that Nayan mentioned, right? So we are able to assist our utility partners from cradle to grave, whether it's in business case development. And again, this circles back to finding the real value in AMI, right? It's not just about the saved meter reads. It's about all of the other benefits that we can give to our customers. It's about the win-win-win opportunities for DER between society, customers, and the utility, about outage management. And then, through the actual deployment and the change management, which is so important, right? So as you bring in these large programs, there's so much change that happens in the utility with the system, such as what Nayan talked about, right? It's no longer just about, an antiquated customer, account system, right? But you have all of these other, SaaS platforms and vendors coming in to utilize all of that data, right? So what was once a month meter read is now almost 3,000 data points, and that is at one household. So you're really, have to manage that amount of data coming in. And, West Monroe has recognized that from the beginning, and also, in data governance, data structure, that is going to be so important in supporting our utility partners in getting ready to ingest all that data and then make sense of it and present it to internal customers, like the folks in billing or in outage management or in your energy efficiency departments, as well as your external facing customers, right? How can they best utilize this, and where is that data going? To Nayan's point, this, utilities are becoming big tech companies.
Nayan, is that something that you're looking at, maybe to have tailored customer journeys or user journeys for those customers with very specific needs?
Life support customers, we are making sure that we pay higher attention using the AMI data. So we still have the regulation where we have to make sure that we call customers who are as a part of the LSC, and making sure that they understand that how long this power restoration process would occur and all these things. But now we can ping those meters and making sure that whether they have a power or they don't have a power, right? And provide the very expedited services, rather than focus, once you validate those customers, you can really, that department really, it helps them, right? It really helps them to communicate with the customers and reach out safely, right? So some of the other things that we are also looking into is how can we offer the different time of use rate for the solar customers, right? The EV charging station and all these things.
What would you tell to a utility that would come to you and say, we're in the middle of our MI deployment and you want to implement some customer-facing solutions to leverage that data? What maybe a couple of pieces of advice that you would give them?
Sure. So I must say that be nimble, right? Start small before deploying to the mass, and validate, right, what you really want to do for customers, and constantly make sure that you are looking your ways, whether it's an online panel, whether it's a customer focus group, do some survey, making sure that the product and services that you are offering is good for customer or no, right? And listen to their feedback very seriously, because there is some message behind that thing. And when you see the trend, right, of course, you should not jump from any decision by just reading one survey or one customer's feedback. But if you really see over month over month, you are getting the similar feedback, right? Always look for those things. There is always opportunity, room for improvement, how we can really satisfy our customers, and always think outside the box, right? Don't just say that what we've been doing it for 100 years in utility and let's continue to do this thing, right? Let's see that how we can really provide them the experience, what they are getting it from outside utility. Because we as a utility, our customer is only one customer, right? But for customers, they are using many other utilities, right? They are using their phone services, they are using their online streaming services, they are getting the shopping experience from the different websites, right? So for us, for them, we are one of them, right? We are one of many other experience that they are getting it. And how to match that experience, how to make sure that we are there for the customers when they need us the most, right? So those are some of the things that I must say in order to win our customer heart.
So Jennifer, so I know West Monroe published a 21 utility and energy outlook report earlier this year. Would you be able to share with us the key lessons or the key trends from that research?
Sure, absolutely. So at West Monroe, we identified 6 key trends or even challenges that utilities, have faced in 2021. And I think that they're really applicable, moving into 2022. So really the first is, and I think we can all agree, reliability and resiliency, and that ties back to the impact of AMI on the customer experience, right? So while we obviously are strengthening our grid, hardening our infrastructure, it also means having the communications with our customers for where we are in, storm response, so they can have that trust in the utility. So I know that we're all working on the infrastructure, but customer communication during a storm is part of that reliability. It's not even just during storm, it's for what changing infrastructure looks like. So DER and customer engagement with where their energy is being sourced, how they're using it, and when they're using it really leads to having utilities create a win-win-win strategy. So in that program of what's best for the customer, what's best for utilities and operations, and then what is best for society, because most utilities do have some decarbonization goals, and climate goals are really important for customers. So how are we adjusting our infrastructure and our reliability to adjust to new DER programs? And then that leads, really into EVs. And EVs have been, on the market for quite some time. However, their popularity has not really slowed down, and utilities really need to adjust and prepare for it. You will find that utilities really are pretty well engaged with state utility policy, state EV policy, as well as preparing their grid for it. What does a shift in load look like because they're EVs? And how do we encourage our customers to shift their load to, let's say, off peak at night? And not only that, utilities can understand this through EV calculators and EV fleet tools. And then next is really the focus of, how AMI and customers tie together. And that's that customer promise, right? Utilities, this has been a trend, but I think more so with everything we're talking about today of the customer persona, the customer journey, and really recognizing that not all customers are the same. That's a huge understanding for 2021. It's going to be a challenge in 2021. It has been a challenge in 2021, and it'll continue to be a challenge, moving into the new year in 2022, right? And that's where we talk about the customer personas and the customer journeys, and West Monroe really is working on supporting utilities in leveraging all that quantitative and qualitative data that comes in through AMI. And really the key for utilities here is to develop systems and approaches that allow them to be nimble and to change customer personas as customers themselves change. And then, really moving into the benefits of data and getting that value of data. So I found this statistic overwhelming, right? I spoke about that, one data meter read is now turning into 3,000 data points a month. However, utilities still are only using about 2 to 4% of all the data that they're receiving. And that's an overwhelming opportunity for utilities, right? There's all of this data, and how do they make it useful for not only for their customers, as we've been speaking about, but also for themselves? How can they make operational changes, and how can they use the information efficiently, as well as present it in a way that their employees can understand it and make use of it, and make changes to the programs in ways that will benefit the customers. So it's really a cultural change for utilities. And then last but not least, and maybe if anything, the most important is, with all of the information coming in, is how can utilities protect their infrastructure and their systems? So, data is pretty much a capital for utilities now. Capital investments are no longer just your poles, your transformers, and your wires. Capital is the data, right? So we're seeing changes come along as if, SaaS platforms can now be capitalized in the first year in financials, which is great. but it's also recognizing the importance of data and cybersecurity in what utilities are doing. So utilities are big tech companies, they are cyber companies, and they need to be able to understand the importance of the data that's coming in and how can they set their systems up to protect their customers and protect the system.
Thank you both. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, Nayan. Thank you for sharing your industry knowledge, Jennifer. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Awesome session there, shaping the customer experience with AMI-based analytics. I'm so fortunate to be joined by both Nayan Parikh, Senior Manager of Customer Technology at PSEG Long Island, as well as Jennifer Popkin, Senior Consultant Energy and Utilities at West Monroe. This is our last live Q&A today, and I want to thank you both, first of all, for joining us and making some time to sort of answer those questions from the audience that they may have after the session. Quickly, let's start maybe, Nayan, on your side of the fence. You're a little ways into this sort of deployment of AMI and the benefit of the technology, including things like bill itemization. What has been the impact, if any, to the operational side of the business? Maybe call center, are you seeing increased call loads? Give us a little bit of an idea of what those impacts of the AMI has been on sort of the cost operational side.
Sure. First of all, thank you. And I would say that for the AMI side, and specifically for the bill itemization project, we have seen a very positive impact in the call center. Definitely when our reps talk to the customers and go through the high bill calls or high bill analyzer, and not only they can provide the information about, oh, this is how much your bill is high, but in break it down saying that, okay, you spend $20 more in air conditioner, you spend $10 more here, right? So that really is a next level experience where customer never had. To my previous example of credit card statement, right? When you can really break it down and show customer that this is where you spend money, it has a really big impact. And we are also going through the change management plan and trying to measure some of the high bill call volumes and trying to study that further. But definitely, overall, it's a very positive experience for our reps.
Well, I like that because you're hitting on two things. One, there's the cost basis of the impact, but there's also the customer basis of the impact, right? And when you have something that can be a little bit more tailored to resolving an issue with more specificity, it could speed up the call. It could also just be a better call for that customer. So it's really helpful.
Absolutely.
From a reverse side of the coin, from say the regulator side of the coin, have you received any feedback from regulatory body about what you guys are doing in terms of deploying AMI and the analytics that come with it?
Absolutely, right. So when we started our Utility 2.0 filing in 2018, since then, we have to provide the quarterly updates to our regulators, right? And we have to provide how we are making the progress, where we are in this kind of the pilot phase of the project or the AMI deployment. Every quarterly, we have a very robust reporting system, right? And so far, I must say that it's been very positive. They are pleased with the outcome, the customer engagement numbers, some of the numbers that I mentioned earlier about the open rate, click rate, and how customers are providing their feedback is definitely a very positive experience. We have also, based on our regulators' ask, we are also working with the third party evaluator to see that how is there any impact on energy efficiency savings, right? So far, we've been really focusing on customer engagement phase. Now we are going to see that is there any impact on customer behavior for the energy savings like that.
Yeah,
so it's going well. Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so maybe expanding upon that, right? This sort of secondary impacts, right? So we start with let's use these analytics to help customers understand more and do more. Secondary impact becomes energy efficiency. Are there any other areas that you foresee disaggregation and analytics having an impact at PSEG Long Island?
Absolutely, right. I believe that this load disaggregation and this concept is basically we believe that hyper personalization is the key, right? And our load research group, our I would say EV, energy efficiency, DER, there are a lot of opportunities where we can leverage the AMI data, we can leverage the AI driven analytics and really use there for the different use cases. So definitely we are thinking in that direction, and we are already started working in some of the area where we can leverage this technology for sure.
Fantastic. That's a perfect transition over to Jennifer. Jennifer, Nayan talked about sort of the distributed resources paradigm and sort of, doing the future planning for it. In some cases, we've got high degree of penetration in certain states and areas. Other places, even within the same state, it's a little slower to lag. You talked about the need for more EV adoption. How do you see utilities preparing for that from your perspective at West Monroe? And what sort of planning can they do to prepare? What sort of data should they be looking at?
Absolutely. So data can really help each utility. I know I talked about it a lot in the previous piece because it provides so much information and new information that utilities didn't have in the past. So to your point of within the same state or within the same utility, you can have very different and separate use patterns, cities versus rural areas. So in regards to EV adoption, it can really help support load growth, and then providing the analytics of, the load disag, how people are using it can really help to drive people adapting the behavior to even out that load growth, to reduce the peak and off, the difference between the peak and the off peak, and really have that, overnight charging, for example. So being able to provide the customers with the information they need to make the choices that's better for their household and then the larger utility market. And then also, that goes to DER. It's a two-way, path for utility. It's no longer the utility giving the customer their energy. It's also coming back into the system now. So it can really help to drive the DER adoption. We're seeing not only just EVs being more popular, solar being more popular, and there are new batteries, residential battery storage systems that's coming into the market, and that's constantly evolving. So being able to use the data to check patterns in area will be able to lead to predictive analytics, where repairs need to be made, and then also what kind of information the customer may need to make better decisions.
Right. How to engage them in a way that's more than likely to get them to make that adjustment or change or shift or whatever it is. I like that. And you're right. It's going to be different, not only one house to the next, but a certain corner of the city versus another. We had a great session earlier today talking about some of that segmentation and clustering, and then breaking it down even to sort of a household level. So one of the things you said, Jennifer, that I really liked was, data is capital. Do you see utilities maximizing their use of AMI data in a way that, they do with their classic capital infrastructure assets? Talk a little bit more about that.
Yep. So, when I said that, I meant it literally in the sense of now you can capitalize your SaaS investments in your first year. But I think that, more figurative meaning applies as well, in the sense of, are they maximizing it? I think they're maximizing it to the best of their potential. You can't do everything at once. I know Nayan and I both spoke about that, picking use cases, really driving towards successful use cases in pieces. However, it's also a culture change for the utility. So therefore, to maximize it, it really needs to be a long-term strategy goal for the utility. Identifying what data, what kind of data, how often you're going to get updates to the data, where you're going to store it. I think everybody can agree cybersecurity for that data is so important, and that's going to be shifting. I know that for most of the utilities on here, they can all agree they probably have some type of cybersecurity plan being updated or changed at the moment. So are they maximizing it? I think every utility is trying to maximize it to the best of their ability at the moment, but knowing that it's going to be a long-term cultural shift is really the way to achieve that maximum goal.
Yeah, I was going to say, great call out. Safety is number one for everybody on the call, whether it's physical safety or data safety. That's a good safety moment. So maybe to close out, Jennifer, there's this layer beyond the data of artificial intelligence, right? It's taking the data and maximizing its usefulness in terms of those predictions you mentioned. What's your take in terms of utilities doing well at that? Maybe you have some, specific examples, or you have an area where you think we could see more growth in terms of the use of artificial intelligence at a utility.
I think it's really hard to say if there's one strategy that's going to be best for, all utilities, because, like you said in the earlier segments, and we just discussed, it's really varying based on what the utility needs. However, in regards to AI, a really great approach is, again, being willing to be flexible and nimble, being able to understand that it's still a growing process. Vigilly has changed so much in the past decade, right? And utility adoption of Vigilly and load disaggregation has really changed. So therefore, it's really just about being able to be flexible and know that AI now and AI in 10 years may look different.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I want to again quickly thank both you and Nayan for your participation. You guys are wonderful to interview, wonderful to film with. Thank you both for your expertise, and we look forward to talking with you more.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you.